Time now for some headlines. You know what I like to say? I like to say so many headlines, so little time. It was very easy to pick out a couple of headlines this week, and I picked one out actually from the Windsor Star for their perspective on the bridge this week. Amazing day as shovels break ground on Gordie Howe International Bridge. From the Windsor Star. So that, well, didn't they start talking about this in 2001? Wasn't it supposed to be built in 2011? And
I can't remember when that passed the legislature. Was that 11 or 12? It passed the legislature in Snyder's second.
Was it 12?
But the point is, the groundbreaking, which I think people thought we might not see for quite a while, actually happened this week for this crossing. And an interesting time, though, given a lot of the conversations between the trade tensions between the U.S. and Canada.
Yeah, I think the wild card there is Donald Trump. You saw the Maroons in an ad really try to just nakedly appeal to the president to try to stop the Gordie Howe Bridge so that they can build their other one. I'm not sure that that's not something he might warm to.
And that's why the Snyder administration is pushing this narrative that it's unstoppable now because we put a shovel in the ground. Of course it's not. But you're going to see...
Still got to get this customs
plaza. You're going to see a lot of hurry up on that to head off that last-ditch effort.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The next headline I saw, let's take this one from the Washington Post. And again, it's so interesting with the news. I mean, you can kind of pick and choose what your headline is and kind of where the slant comes from. But White House attempts to clarify Trump's response to whether Russia is still targeting U.S. elections. I have to say that this week, in watching everything that transpired, it was really... it was quite anxiety-producing. It was baffling at times, and then the walk back that the White House is doing and saying what would or would not, and I said no to a question, but it meant I wasn't going to answer the question, not no to the question. I don't know. I'm going to give you first crack at this, Nolan.
Well, I think this had to rattle Donald Trump in the response because you saw almost universal denouncement from Republicans, which has been rare, particularly in an election year. They lined up and
they've been doing a lot of holding their nose and saying, we kind of agree.
So they lined up and said, what the hell are you talking about? And I think that rattled him. His response was just so typical, you know. Well, no, I didn't. It wasn't really me. I mean, he should have stood up and said, I got this dead wrong, and I apologize to the country, which he owed us because he humiliated us in front of one of the worst tyrants in the world, and moved on from there with a really tough plan for protecting our election. Because right now it's not about whether he said something wrong or didn't say something wrong. We got elections coming up here in a couple of months, general elections. We need to be sure as voters nobody is in that ballot box except us.
Yeah. He did say in a CBS interview earlier this week that he does blame Putin or hold him personally responsible, just like he's the head of the country here, and that he would be personally responsible. But it almost kind of reminds me of someone who doesn't stand up to the guy when you're standing right next to him, but then goes back a couple days later and said, "Oh I really blame him."
It's also true that historically, the presidency is about moments, right? And it's what you say in those important moments. Imagine if John Kennedy had mistakenly said, ask not what your country what you can do for your country, ask what your country can do for you, and then came back the next day and said, oh no, you know what, that was a mistake. I mean, it doesn't work. And as powerful as the presidency is, that rhetorical dimension of it can undermine the confidence that people have in a president. And I think this is different than almost everything else that he's done in that way, that it resonated with people.
It's an argument against the unscripted presidency. I don't know what he was doing standing up there with
Putin, why was he doing
having a press conference anyway. That could only go bad. And most of his conversation with American people, most of his communication is unscripted. And I'm not sure that's, given the weight that every word a president says carries, I'm not sure that's the best way.
But I think that people have knocked presidents before for being too scripted. And I do think, though, but it shows the nakedness of the lack of knowledge or the savvy in some situations that, this is such a pivotal moment that the world is watching that I do need to have something prepared.
So George W. Bush is not the best off-the-cuff speaker or politician in the world. but during his presidency, they were very good at not putting him in positions
Right.
too often where he could make those kinds of errors. At the same time, you had Barack Obama, who's great in those situations, and he was
Right.
able to do that. No one is managing this
But
president
it speaks
but
to
him.
it speaks to who he's surrounding himself
Yeah,
with
right.
right now and who's advising him.
I'm not sure
All
even
right.
that's true, because I'm not sure there's anybody
Who has any sort
Right.
of
who could
ability.
sort of control him. This is
All right.
this is a matter of self-awareness.
Okay.